My face got all red. Hey everyone, thanks for coming and joining us today for the live stream. I really appreciate it, and please also I appreciate your patience as this is the first time doing this, but hopefully this is going to work out really nice and easy. Big thank you also to the guests that we have. We have Rian and Greg coming here with us from Vans, and are really looking forward to having their time and being able to talk with them. So thank you so much. And yeah, we're here to talk about the new RV-10 kits that you guys have, and about the new options that are going to be here with the. People have been calling them final drilled, but I know I talked to you, Greg, earlier that that's not the right term, and I'm going to let you go over explaining the new term. But basically, the idea is that these are going to be kits where you do not have to then assemble them, match drill them, disassemble them, deburr them, and then reassemble them to actually rivet them together. Correct?
Right. Yeah. So historically, up until now, RV-10 parts have been matched whole. There's a series of terms that we can probably go through, right? Matched whole means that you have parts that will go together, and the holes are already in those parts when you receive them, and they line up perfectly. So that's what matched hole means. Then we have another term called match drilling. Match drilling actually is use it as a drill guide to drill a new hole that didn't exist before in some other substructure. So the RV-10 doesn't have a whole lot of that. It has a lot of matched holes. The change that's taken place is that those matched holes are final sized. So previously they were slightly undersized. You'd cleco those parts together. It's a self-jig assembly. Take your reamer or drill, drop a drill bit, and you would run them through both parts to take the holes that are slightly undersized up to final size holes. So the new parts, the change that we've made is the parts have been modified so that when they're delivered, they're matched hole and final size, which saves steps in terms of how many times you have to take it apart, put it together, take it apart, put it together, either, wash, rinse, repeat, that kind of stuff in the assembly process. So you're that much closer to riveting at that point.
Excellent. And I have to admit, I'm really jealous already, having heard about it, just thinking about the time that's going to be saved. But I'm going to try and go through some of the different questions, I guess, that I've already been hearing from a lot of other people, and other ones that I'm curious about. And then towards the end, if we have a little time left and you guys are still available, go look through the chat and see if there's any questions that I didn't ask. Is that okay?
Sure. And let me just say one thing, which is, we think it's really cool. That's cool and exciting now is that, people building airplanes and like YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, like you're just all over Instagram, right? But the fact that people are out there sharing information, sharing their experience is really cool. So appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for inviting us to come in and just be part of it, because it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy that.
Oh, good, absolutely. Thank you.
It's all about the community, right? And so people sharing information with each other is it's just super cool. So that didn't exist back when Vans Aircraft was founded in 1973.
The community's been really great, just being able to reach out and connect with everybody, and I love all the different friends that we've made within the builder community. So
right. By the way, we did not plan to dress the same, but apparently we did. So we're in the same shirt.
So let's start, I guess, with when are you guys expecting the final drilled kits to start rolling out?
So the final size parts are being put into kits the way that's already been happening. So the way we're doing it is, as parts are manufactured, new parts are manufactured, they're being incorporated into kits as they ship. What that means is that if we pack the crate, a wing kit in it today, for example, rather it's as parts come off are made new and go into inventory on the shelf and are being pulled in order to be incorporated into a kit. number of parts that final size holes grow until finally we used up all the parts on the shelf that had the slightly undersized holes. And so it's kind of a migration, if you will. It's easing into it. But by sometime in early 2021, I think it's pretty likely that we'll have very few, if any, of the undersized parts left over. It'll be a very small number, if any, at that point in time.
Okay. And then, so you're saying it's going to be like different pieces, so it's not necessarily that there's going to be a whole kit that is that's ready to go. It's not going to be like the whole empennage kit is all done at once. It's kind of like as you get it, you're doing it.
Transition phase. So we're in a period of transition, and that's what's happening. And the way we're doing it is the parts that are undersized, we put a mark on them. So and a piece of paper, a little explanation in the crate with it that says, hey, it's got the mark on it. And then what is that? So that you can determine it. Of course, the other thing you can do is you can stick it in the hole and take a rivet and stick it in the hole and find out whether.
Okay. And then how much time, I think this is really the biggest question that a lot of people had, is how much time are you guys thinking is going to end up getting cut from the actual build time? Because I'm sitting here thinking about with the kits that we've got and everything right now, and with some of these bits, putting it all together and all of the time that it takes, like thinking about with the tail cone, for example, putting that whole big piece together and then match drilling all of it and then having to take the whole thing apart. That's a big deal to not have to necessarily do that with all these different pieces. How much time do you think that's going to end up cutting from the build time?
Ryan, what do you think? I think it's a significant amount of time. It's not like it's a massive percentage. But what would you say?
Yeah, it's definitely a significant amount. Christine, you might be able to answer this question, and people would, consider the truth of your answer since you just built an airplane. But if you didn't have to put it together and take it apart, there's still going to be some deburring that has to happen on the parts. Screwdriver, touching every hole. I don't know. It's hard. Maybe 15 to. Would it be higher? Yeah, would it be higher? Greg? I don't know. It's different. It's hard to. It depends on the person.
And if that's something that somebody's able to zip right through, then time-wise, maybe it's not as big of an impact. But when you're
right.
So this is where your perfectionist can be your enemy, right? So it really depends on how much time and perfection. There are people who take magnifying glasses and look at their deburring, right? So there's a balance to be struck. But I think you're probably right. Portions of the build where you're actually amount of work that goes into doing, those things where you're taking skins, substructure, and final sizing.
Right.
And I think that's huge, and I think that's going to be one of the big pluses that I know people have been talking about. And then the next thing, I guess, that kind of comes tied in with that is that, do you think that the quick build kits now that people order are going to be coming in faster?
No. I don't think so. You might think different, Ryan, but I think that what determines quick build time, first of all, the people that do that work are highly efficient and do it all the time. And what really drives quick build time is the fact that it has to be crated, shipped to the quick build center. It has to be done. It has to be recrated, reshipped, come back, go through our QA process, any adjustments that we need to make in QA, and graded, repacked, and shipped to the customer. So the percentage of time that's represented by the final drill, the final size drilling on the RV-10 for quick build parts is a very small fraction of the time, overall time that goes into preparing a quick build kit to get to a customer.
So it wouldn't be you don't don't think it's a significant amount of time.
I don't think it will change the schedule for quick build at all. It's just not, because of the way that sort of that process of assembly works. It's just, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. And then another question then is, do you think there's going to be a price difference with the kits with the new process that you're having to go through to make these holes final drilled?
No. So we
Well, that's good. That's really nice. So on some of the kit, and again, like I know we talked about with the tail cone, where you have parts that you have to match drill because there aren't any holes in them. So for example, like the longerons that have to go through there where there are no holes. And I'm assuming that those parts, that's still something where you will have to do some match drilling?
Affirmative, yeah. The longerons are an extruded extrusion that does not have the holes already in them. So those you'll still have to hold up to the top of the edge of the side and drill those. But we're trying to reduce that as much as possible everywhere we can. A few years ago, the RV-8, make the RV-8, we tried to eliminate that as much as possible. And that was our main goal with the 14. So everything is drilled on that airplane. The 10, it's a work in progress. We have a long-term commitment to the RV-10, so you're going to continue to see product improvements for quite a few years to come on that airplane.
Great. So you're saying that you do have a goal that eventually there might not be any parts that you have to match drill?
I would say the longeron would stay that way. It's a major redesign to change the longeron from a 3/4 by 3/4 extrusion to what is in the 14, which is really a large T channel. That's about an inch and a half tall with 3/4 inch flanges on it. So all the bulkheads have to change that. It's quite a change. I would rather, find a way to match drill the longerons. An exciting piece of equipment that we just purchased and I'll be bringing in next week to Vans is a really high-end tubing bender that we found, and you can bend longerons with it. So in case any of you have enjoyed bending longerons by hand with a hammer and we bend the longerons in a CNC way, where if you have the holes in there to begin with, and then bend them on a CNC tubing bender, we can get to that point. It's going to be a while, but that's the goal.
Well, that's great. And then I think you kind of touched a little bit, I think, on this earlier, Greg, with that you're kind of just going to eventually end up phasing out the parts. So if there's a current builder and they go and they are reordering parts, for right now, they will still continue to get the ones that have to get match drilled, but eventually, for perhaps, let's say, some of the builders who take a little bit longer on their builds, they will eventually be getting final drilled parts if they order any replacement parts or if they order their kits further down the road.
Right. So if you were to order a part, say you got your kit 6 months ago, and you order a replacement part today, that part has already been was produced very recently and therefore already has final size holes. Because that part has been changed to incorporate final size holes. Of the slightly undersized hole parts runs out, it gets replaced with final size hole parts. And you can use either one. You don't have to have final size parts or all slightly undersized parts together. And in fact, a question that's come up a few times here and there since we've introduced this is have some. What do I do if I have final sized holes that are supposed to mate up to parts with that still have slightly undersized holes? What do I do? And the short answer is take a reamer and drill gun and run it through there and put it together. That's the short answer. So you don't have to go it together. You don't have to go it together and match drill to upsize through one part. Just run it through the part that's undersized and then quickly go together. And
is there any concern with using match drilled and final drilled parts together?
If you didn't do that, an issue. So I brought a little show and tell here. This is a punch. This is what it looks like in the punch. If everybody can see that, there's a top die, a male top die, and a female, and there's a certain amount of clearance between these two. I'll take this bottom out. This the top as it goes down, and as they're punched, as we use this punch tool and sharpen it, the diameter becomes. We couldn't use it. And what we recently did was add a and it's and we sized. Have any, and we don't have any. But the hole can get pretty. Dimple dies is reduced diameter.
Yes.
Okay. So you can see that this if you look, the crack on this Teague specimen started right where. And he got cracks in his side skin of his beautiful painted RV-7. And so now it has 600 hours, and he has cracks in a paint job. How do you fix that? Do you put an ugly patch over that? I just felt terrible for him. But there are consequences. The best rule of thumb, and first step, remove airplane and rivet.
But you did say, so everything is going to be labeled, though, so people will be able to know definitely coming from you that they either are final sized or they're not final sized.
Yeah, the one, and there's a one between the final size hole or size hole and on the parts, and so on the parts. And so that's we try to make it as simple as. Sometimes it's just stupid simple is the simplest, right? Which is if you take a rivet and you can put it in a hole, it's not an undersized hole, right? I mean it's probably okay. So it's if the reamer will fit in a hole, then it's a full size hole. So you can. I mean, it's not a complicated check and find out. And guessing is definitely not as good as checking, right? But the nice thing is you get a part and you check a couple holes, and those are final sized holes, and it's marked. And the way that it's marked, I'm confident I can just deal with that part and start putting it together.
And so. I don't think I asked this earlier, but just a quick question. If coming from where we are, where we have a the original kit where we don't have the final size holes, and say we were to have a part from there that we haven't matched drilled yet, and now we order for whatever reason we needed a replacement from you guys, and it is final size, and these happen to be two pieces that mate up. We would still then Cleco everything together to match drill it because the original piece is not final sized. So even though the new set is final size, we would still put the drill through that to make sure the original not final size piece and the new final size piece match up properly.
Yes. What accommodates that, if you look at the rivet standard, solid rivets are amazing. They'll expand quite a bit. So even though you might have a slightly off there, I don't. From our testing, we won't have a concern with things twisting, etc. But we're not concerned with that. Even if the hole is off slightly, the rivet's going to fill that void. One trick, builder trick, if you just want to put that out there. If you have a bad experience on a single hole, and you drill out a rivet, now you have a hole that's oversized, and you put the rivet in there, and you're like, I can't go to the next size rivet. And I don't really want to drill larger for the next size rivet, but it's only barely too big. You can take the rivet and preset it. Take a rivet that's too long, preset the rivet, stick it in the hole, and then set it as you normally would, and you'll be fine. It's like creating your own oops rivet, in effect.
When you say preset it, to like use like a squeezer or something to slightly compress it a little bit, to fatten it a little bit?
Right.
Interesting.
That's exactly right. Huh. Yeah.
Learn a new trick every day. See, this is what's fun with the community. You learn all these fun little tricks, especially from Chief Engineer. So
make your own oops
rivet. Make your own oops rivet. I like that. And talking about having you here as the Chief Engineer, I think that something that I know that I'm really curious about is what goes into you guys having to change the kits to now have it where you have the final sized holes, because presumably if it was just something easy, all the kits would just automatically come like that, or you would just flip a switch and all of them would be this way. So what is it that you have to do in order to transition a kit from where it stands now, where you do the match drilling, to being able to provide these final sized hole kits?
Sure. There's a number of barriers. I've worked here since '98, and it was about '99 when we first had the idea. So that's a long time. But one of the issues that had changed, what was different between 1999 and about that time, the 51% rule. So behind the scenes, when we go through a kit evaluation, and they're open to the public, Ket go search on that website, and that's our 51% approval. And you can look through the NCAT forms that are posted there. Now they don't post the old ones; they only post the new format. But the new format, it changed about two times. I think twice in my time, 22 years here. And when that changes, it completely changes how the FAA interprets 51%. And at that point, we can make changes. So the credit that you used to get for putting things together and drilling it and taking back apart, that really wasn't there after the change in NCAT. So there's a complete change. And if you wonder why we don't do other things for you, it's largely based on that 51% rule. Now, one exciting thing which won't help RV-10 customers, but eventually is coming, is the changes to LSA, LPA, as they call it, light personal aircraft, where possibly if you build an airplane like you do now on RV-12 as an ELSA, there's no 51% rule. So we can do a lot for you, right? And I'm looking forward to that. That'll open up the world, but that's the world. But that's where we're at now. We have to play this game with the 51% rule, and most of it's fine. Some of it's arbitrary when they're there. It's kind of you just got to take the kit as a whole, and they try to figure out how much the builders are doing. And anyway, you can look at categories there if you want to know more about it. That's one side of it. What I was saying about the punch itself, introducing that new punch, taller shank of the full size. This one, for example, is 719 at the top and 709 at the bottom. Well, if you were expecting a 719 hole, within a couple thousandths, you obviously can't sharpen it down to here. So, and have a 709 hole. So just the fact that we were able to use tooling so much longer than we had before, that's been a huge game changer for us. And you'll see it totally back in. We finally, just bit the bullet and took the time to do it. That's another part of it, to be honest. And we have a great new engineer, Rian Story. He just tackled that project, knocked it out. I'm very impressed with that. So slowly over time, you'll see as it makes sense on kits. Obviously, what I said about the RV-10, we have a long-term commitment to that kit. So I'm going to improve that kit as much as I can.
That's wonderful. How long has it taken? I guess, I know that you made the announcement. I think it was during the Spirit of Aviation Week with EAA, what would have been AirVenture up at Oshkosh. But how long had you guys had to spend working on it, trying to get to the point then where you could make the announcement? And I know you said there's still more time before we're going to have all of the parts transitioned over.
The difficulty was we have all these parts on the shelf, right? And to create a clean cutoff point, it was a challenge, and it became such a challenge after we started looking at it that we almost didn't do it. And so instead of saying we're not going to do this, we said, okay, what if we mark the old parts that are on the shelf and start introducing new parts as they run out, and eventually, by year's end, we expect somewhere around the end of this year, all the parts going out the door will have final size holes.
Oh, wow.
Give or take. So one of your questions earlier was, did the price go up, right? If we had taken all those already made parts and thrown them in the scrap bin, the price of the fuselage and wing kits mostly would have gone up fairly significantly. We would have to change the price to do that. So we're saving a little bit of time, but the idea is that we try one of our precepts, right? One of the things that we do is we want to make exceptional and uncommon airplanes available to exceptional common folk, right? So that we can build it, we can afford to do it, we do it over time. It's a labor of love, and it's something we're really interested in. We're all doing it, right? And but we want to try to keep the costs down as much as we can. There's inflation, and things do cost more over time, but we do the best we can to try to keep the cost of the builder down, so that as many people as possible can, find out what this is all about and make it happen. Ryan, I think, is it okay if I ask a question? Christine?
Sure, go ahead.
Because I wanted to ask you if you could touch on, you briefly mentioned a couple of technology changes. So one of the technology changes that we made recently in the punch press, right? And for people that don't know, a punch press is a great big table, clamps onto these great big 12-foot long sheets of aluminum, moves it back and forth really quick, and the tools Ryan had this automated turret, pneumatic thing, it shoots it, and that tool, and it takes the part, shoots it down, die, the tool, and so we're not cutting metal, literally punching holes through metal. Everything that's out of metal sheet is punched, cut, and it's not drilled. The holes aren't drilled; they're punched, right? Which is part of where you get the clean hole. You take a jobber bit number 30, 40 bit and run a hole through. But so some of the technology changes and the capabilities of this new punch press, Trump 5 TRUMPF, by the way, 5,000. There's a lot of new technology in that, already used in some cases and are already used in others. And it's also quite a bit faster, and tooling lasts quite a bit longer. But other technology, I think it's important to point out that we're investing in technology to be able to do these kinds of things. We're investing really pretty majorly in the factory, and also investing in people. Maybe Ryan, you can touch on some.
years of my career, and I just see tubing bender would be the 15th machine. Tonnage, it's able to hit a lot harder, which means you have a much cleaner hole, like Greg was talking about. Just the alignment of that punch press is modern technology, so you get smoother edges, less deburring required. To be able to back to older airplanes. The CNC tubing bender, we had what was called an NC tubing bender, where you to YouTube bend, so something like roll bars that are a constantly changing radius shape. Those will come out accurate every time. Just put the tube in. And have control over that. So our largest is called a VF-10. The longest, but actually the machined area, the longest is an RV-12, and